In this video, I'm going to show you 7 common layering techniques that you could use to add depth and professionalism to any song. Let's get started. The first layering technique is what I call line layering or just simple layering. It's a very common layering technique we've seen with artists like deadmau5, Avicii, and Martin Garrix. And it's when you take your core melody This is actually a remake of deadmau5's The Veldt, so we could see how this was layered. And the way line layering works is when you take certain lines of the melody. So here's the bottom and top line of this melody, and find different sounds for each line. So we have these 2 lines of the melody now on a slightly different synth sound. But in the song, this synth is arpeggiated and plays 8th notes. And layered on top of the core melody, it sounds like this. And then he takes the middle line of the melody and he makes it play a sound that I cannot remake and I cannot find. So I just picked my own sound that I think sounds pretty good. So this is the midline of the melody. It's like the main part of the melody. And then in classic deadmau5 fashion, he did this in a couple of his songs. He takes the entire core melody and just overlays it with the piano. And finally, we can't forget, it's always good to take the bass line. In this case, I think he used an 8th note bass that sounded like this. Such a fun melody to mess around with. But that's how you can get a unique and full sound, by picking apart the melody and layering each line. This next technique is called bass matching, and it's when you use the bass to enhance your main melody or chords. Let me show you what this means. So here's the piece of music we're going to use. This is a drop with no bass. Now here's just the chords and melody. So yeah, cool little wobble melody. And what we could do is we can enhance this by picking a bass that matches its dynamics and rhythm. The easiest way to do this is to duplicate the chords and use the sound of the chords as the bass. Most sounds that you're going to use for your chords will make great bass sounds. You just have to know how to convert them to a bass. And then we're going to go into the chords and we're going to copy the bottom note just so we get the exact rhythm of the notes. We can go back up here and now paste the notes. And we have an exact replica of the rhythm and sound for this bass. But we have to make it more bassy. So let's undo the EQing. Turn off some other weird things I had going on. And one more thing, when you're picking a bass sound, make sure it has no hidden reverbs on the plugin or in the list of audio effects. You want your bass to be dry. And let's play it back. And it looks like we're sitting between 40 and 80 hertz, which is where we want our sub bass to sit. And now by converting our chord sound into a matching bass layer with perfectly matching rhythm and dynamics, we get this sound. Isn't that heavy? Now here it is without the bass. Notice how strong of a sound you get when all of the layers are perfectly matching in rhythm. The next layering technique is adding a wide bass layer. And when you can pull this one off, you can get a really big sound. So we're going to take the same piece of music. And I'm just going to duplicate the bass layer. And this is what we get. And you can make things wide 150 different ways, but the way I'm going to do it, go down to modulation and add a chorus plugin. I'm just going to jack the mix all the way up. and then mess with the dials until I get what I like. And now without our chorus plugin, we have this, a very thin sound. And with our chorus plugin, get a really wide sound. But in order to properly layer bass, we're gonna have to take this layer now and cut out all those sub-bass frequencies, because that's where our original bass is going to sit. I gotta put on the cans and make sure we're not phasing. Kind of tough to tell right now when I'm on the spot. So here's our drop without the wide layer. Here it is with the wide layer.
One more time.
That is a crazy sound. I feel like the bass now just cradles around the chords. Such a cool sound. This next technique is dynamic lead layering, and this got really popular back in the big room house days and is still very popular today because it works. And it's when you take a soft, gentle melody like this, which is a remake of You Could Be the One by Avicii and Nicky Romero. And then we take a high energy, expressive sound like this and copy just the melody notes without the chords and paste them on the high energy sound. And we get this. But it goes a lot deeper than that. We can layer every part of this gentle melody, including the chords, and we can add those to a high expression sound as well, and then add rhythm to them to add even more expression. But in Avicii fashion, when he added layers, he added layers. So we're gonna take these chords and add a piano layer, and add another synth layer. And we're going to take this high expression lead and add another layer to that as well. And the way you use dynamic layering in your song is you run your gentle lead for a couple loops, and then you transition into the high expression lead sounds. Doesn't that just send you on a trip to Nostalgia Town? This next technique is called the skinny wide, and it's when you take a narrow sound and then layer it with a wide sound. And you use these sounds in the arrangement to add expression to the sound. And the way we do it is we take a set of chords, and then we make my favorite sound in the world. Let's initialize our preset. We're going to keep the basic saw wave in there. Turn on the filter, click this over twice to tighten the filter, and then we put this on 220. So what I like to do with this sound, if we look at this sound on an imager plugin, you can see it's very narrow. It takes up no space in the stereo field. And whenever you have a sound like that, you could add a really satisfying effect by bringing in a wide layer. So what I like to do is have that narrow chord pad sound play for 8 bars, and then in the next 8 bars, we bring in a wide chord sound to layer it, and it's so satisfying. So here's how we do it. We're going to duplicate this sound, and I'm going to take the second 8 bars worth of chords and just duplicate them onto this new sound. I'm going to open up Serum, and I'm going to take the same sound, but I'm going to add unison to it, 8 voices, and keep the detune midway. Isn't that beautiful just alone? If we look at our imager, that's a wide sound. Now let me show you how to make this layer come in a really satisfying way. We can make this really cool. I'm going to take this, move it over here. So these wide chords kind of overlap the part of the song that's supposed to be just narrow chords. That's okay. I'm going to turn on automation, make sure we have this selected, the cutoff knob. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like midway on this entry chord part here and just pull that down. So now when we get over this transition, which is right here, we'll hear the nice wide chords come in. Isn't that beautiful? And depending on what your preference is, you can make them come in a little hotter by increasing this a little bit. And the key is when the vocal's on it,
And all this beauty, though it's elevated,
your listeners aren't going to be able to tell what's going on.
I miss that summer we were syncopated, lying hand in hand, we'll side to side.
They'll just be able to hear all this energy come in, but they won't be able to tell like what it is. And that's what's magic about this layering technique. This next technique is called the Armin, and I learned it from watching Armin van Buuren's In the Studio video. And it's when you hide hidden layers in your songs that nobody's paying attention to, but they're helping to create fullness and atmosphere. Let me show you what I mean. So when I'm writing songs sometimes, I'll write something like this. Here's an intro.
Long ago, we were young and full of passion, but love went cold in the heat of all that happened.
And it sounds good, but there's only 2 instruments, and in my brain I'm like, there has to be more. I have to add more. But there's not much room to really add anything. But there is room to hide something in there and help create atmosphere, because the important stuff's already in there. So what I'll almost always do is hide a drone. Drones are great as hidden layers. So to make a drone, load up your synth of choice and pick any sound that you want. I'm going to use Sylenth 1 and a sound that sounds like this. We're going to go up high on the keyboard, and I'm going to pick 2 different notes. You can pick a range from 1 to 4 different notes. So we'll get something like that. Next, add an echo plugin. And then add a reverb plugin of choice. Any reverb will work. Jack the decay up and then put the wet all the way up. And you should end up with a mishmash of a sound. And then right click and bounce it in place. If you're in Ableton, you have to resample it. If you're in FL Studio, you got to figure that one out on your own. And then you'll end up with an audio file that looks like this. Now watch this. This is so much fun to me. Just take any part of this and shorten it like this. So I just got something like this. As you can see, it's pretty much trial and error until you get what you want. Earlier today, I ended up with this sound. I did the same thing, but I got almost a completely different sound. Now watch as I play this back, how this little simple hidden layer adds all of the vibe. Let's go.
Long ago, we were young and full of passion, but love went cold in the heat of all that happened. I thought you would try.
Isn't that awesome?
To bring back our flame. How long
That little drone brings this whole intro together.
ago we were young and
I like when the song just starts right out with it. This final technique is called hidden rhythms, and it is by far the best technique on this list because all of the best producers in the world do this, And I swear this is why their songs sound so full and legit. Let's say we're in the same situation where our song is technically done, but we can definitely hide another layer in there somewhere, like this. Now technically this is done, but we can add like 5% more depth to this to make it that much more unique and special. Let me show you how I like to do this. I like to find little drum loops. And then I make them really quiet. And I'll test one at a time with the instruments in my song just to see if we can add any depth. Here's the first option. I kind of liked this one, but I ended up not using it because it had like a bass presence that crashed into the chords. And then I found this rhythm, which is technically a reggaeton rhythm. And then I snuck this in. And it ended up following that main sound so well. And I make it really quiet too, so you could barely tell it's there, but it's adding so much depth. So now when we bring the vocal back in, it still sounds simple, but all these hidden layers are holding the track together and adding depth. And now here's the obvious drums that you can actually pay attention to, and that's like the point of it. If you can get really good at hiding stuff in your song to add depth to it, you're gonna get a really good sound. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to learn more about layering and sound design, song arrangement, and every other element of music production, you can do that using my course at the top of the description below. The course is called EDM Bootcamp, and it is an entire in-depth course for music production, and it also comes with access to my private Discord, and that's where you can send me your songs for feedback, share your music with the other students, and also ask me any music production related question that you would like. If that sounds like something of interest to you, as I said, there's a link at the top of the description below, and I'll see you in the next video lesson.